In this next exercise, we're going to actually go into the lot sizing routines, and to do so, we're going to be using this group of points right here. As you can see, the benchmark demo book examples, lot sizing begins on page 10, so we're just going to page our way right down there, which shows that same list of points you just saw on the benchmark screen, and gives you an example of how these points plot out, so you can see what the points look like. In fact, I'll zoom this in a little bit so you can get a better look at that. And there we are. You can see the points that we're dealing with to start here. Also, as I go back into benchmark, I can show you a couple of other things that are kind of neat. There's a command called 130 minus for the group command. So we're going to click on the group command. I'm going to use some of the right-click stuff so you can see. I've already created a couple of groups here around those points you see listed there, group 501 and 5011, and I just want to take a quick look at these groups so you can see how they're made up. When you add a group, the first thing it asks you for is a group number, which has to be a number, by the way. And then once you've put in the number, it will take you to a setup that allows you to enter the name of the group, what type of group it is, whether it's just points, a closed polygon, or an open polygon where you're just connecting lines to points. And finally, how you want to label your points. You can label them with just the point number. You can add descriptions and elevations, or the whole shoot and match, whatever you want to put in. In this case, I'm going with an open setup, so I'm connecting lines from 15 to 1 to 3 to 37 to 49 to 48 to 31 to 32. Okay, and that's what this group is about. And then, just to show you how you can blend two groups together to get different results, I'm going to say OK to this one, and then we're going to go take a quick look at this 5011 group. And you'll see in this case, I just said points rather than an open connected line, so I'm just going to plot the points. And I have 2 points here. These are both radius points for a couple of curves. One is the center of the cul-de-sac, and the other is a radius point for a small curve. And I just want those points to appear on the plot. Now, once these are set, I can say OK to that. Next thing we can do, we will go to the back to the command, and we'll go 127 minus, which is the command to create a DXF file. And some of you have AutoCAD who are using this, and some of you don't. For those of you who don't, we've included on the CD Autodesk VoloView Express Viewer, so that you can use it to get to see what your plots look like. In this case, I generally accept these dialogues since these are generally setups that are particular to AutoCAD. Those of you who are really power AutoCAD users may want to change some of the stuff around as far as text size and that sort of thing. In this case, I've defined my text size. I've said that my sheet of paper is an 11 by 17 or B-size sheet, and define my various layers for labels and that sort of thing, and I'm just going to accept these defaults the way they appear here. And then it's going to ask me for the name of a file, so I'm going to say this is going to be lot sizing example 1. And it asks me whether I want to do automatic labeling or manual labeling. There's a whole chapter in the big manual on this that provides a lot of details here that I'm not going to go into now because you can read that. But I'm going to accept automatic labeling for this. We're going to do this plotting several times over, so we'll probably hit on most of the features as we go anyway. And since I'm doing some labeling here, I want my distances on the inside, and I want my bearings on the outside, and I want to plot everything, and I don't need to rotate the thing. And it's giving me the biggest scale that'll fit on the sheet of paper, which is 1 inch equals 44 feet, which I'll say is okay. In fact, I'll just change that to 1 inch equals 50 feet, just to show you we can change things. It asks me about the which side of the line should distances be on. I'll say the right side, and I'll say the left side for the bearings. And it's going to create a table for some stuff that won't fit, and I'll say sure, call that table 1. And what it does, it creates the file, it opens up VoloView Express, and it brings up this pretty much the same setup we saw before. I'm going to change the to black on white just for viewing here. Now you have little tools here for zooming around, and we can just pop in here and look at stuff and see what we want to see. We can always zoom back to the extents. Here you've got a little table you can look at. So you get the general idea. You've got a little bit of AutoCAD. You can print this out to a printer. Understand that VoloView Express, because it's a free viewer, it's just that, it's a viewer. So one thing it doesn't do is plot to scale. To plot to scale, you need AutoCAD or AutoCAD LT, or even Autodesk's VoloView, which is the big brother to VoloView Express, which includes some tools for marking this thing up, and also it includes the Autodesk AutoCAD plotting engine, so it can plot to scale. So here we can see our drawing, and that's all I really wanted to show you. So here we'll exit this to go back to our main area. We're back to command. We've got all these points up here, and we can actually think about lot sizing. So the first thing I'm going to do is the 10 minus command, and to do the lot sizing, the first thing you need to do, you always enter lot sizing with the 190 minus command. So we'll go 190 minus. We'll occupy 0.49, which is the design of our first lot. We're going to start storing at 0.50 when we calculate new points. It's now asking for a bearing, but in this case I'm going to do some inversing around my known lot area. Just so you can see what we're doing here, we're actually going to size up this lot right here. We happen to know everything about the lot here. We want to create this back line over here, slid along this curve and this back line to get the required square footage in here. So that's the actual model of what we're going to be working on. So here I'm going to hit 81 minus to go into inverse mode, and I'm going to go from 0.49 to 0.48 to 0.31, which is sort of the PC of the curve. And to inverse around a curve in benchmark, the command is 68 minus. We go to our radius point, which in this case is 30. Go out to our point of tangency, which in this case is point number 32. We get some curve data, and we've gotten to the end of the points we know. So at this point, to get into the design piece of the lot, we are going to enter 192 minus. This is the radius point of the cul-de-sac, which is 17. And it's asking for a bearing, and we're going to use 40 minus to define the bearing from point 49 down to point 37, which defines the back line that we're going to work on. It's asking us for an area. We're going to go 25,000 square feet. It's also asking for a minimum width at setback, and we're going to not enter anything there. And it'll calculate 0.50, it gives us the curve information, calculates 0.51, and comes back around to 49. So at that point, we've created a lot that has 25,000 square feet in it. So taking a quick look back at our graphic again, you can see that we created points 50 and 51 here, which define the back line of this lot. Our next lot will build off that now that we've got this line established. Will be defined here. So our objective now will be to establish this back line over here for the second lot. To do that, we'll 190 minus, and we'll occupy point number 2. We'll start storing at 0.54. Again, it's asking us for a direction, but we want to inverse since we already have some points established. And we're going to go to point 53. Actually, I got off to a bad start with that lot, so we're going to go 190 minus again to start over. We're going to occupy point 3 and start storing at point number 52. And do an 81 minus to get into inverse and go to point number 37, which get our bearing is 37, and from there we're going to go to point 51. And from there, we're going to go to point 50. And at this point, we have another radial lot sizing, 192 minus. The radius point of the cull is still 0.17. We need to define a bearing, a direction from point 3 toward point 2. An area of 21,780 square feet is what is needed here. The minimum width is going to be 60 feet at a setback of 10 feet. And the rest of my information about this lot now shows up. And that would be this lot right here that we're looking at. And obviously we're establishing a width along this cull here at a distance back, okay? We're going to continue our lot now. I'll do our third lot building off these two. So this is the next lot right over here that I'm going to establish. Do that, I'm going to go 190 minus. I'm going to occupy point 2. And my first storage point when I get around to creating points will be 54. I want to inverse to point 53 to point 52, which now I've now defined what I know about that lot. 192 minus to get to the radial lot sizing. Radius point of the cul-de-sac continues to be 17. I'm going to define a backline direction from point 2 toward point 1. Still want half an acre. And I still have some width and setback data. And I create that lot, which is this lot right here. For purposes of this video, I don't plan on doing every lot in this particular group. I want to do enough to give you a feel for how the program flows, knowing that you could take the examples in the sample book and do the rest of these lots to get a feel of how the rest of them work. What I did want to do at this point, though, was to go to my group menu and create another group or two to show you how to actually add a group, create another lot. So we're gonna define the points for a couple of those lots that we created. So we're going to say we're going to add a group, and the group number is arbitrary. I'll call this 101 just to give it lot number 1, okay? And it's asking me for a name. I'm going to call this lot number 1, and it's a closed polygon because we want to go all the way around the lot. In this case, I only care about the point numbers. Because I don't have any descriptions or anything established for that. So points that make up this lot are, and I'll start at point 49 in the upper right corner, and I'll go to 48 to 34. At this point I have to deal with that curve, so I'm going to put RP for radius point since I know the radius point, which is 30, and I come back out to 32, which is my point of tangency. Now I have to deal with So it's sort of a compound curve, another radius point, because now I'm dealing with the center point of the cul-de-sac, which is point 17. And then I'm coming back out to point 50, which is my point of tangency on that curve. And I'm going up to 51. Now I can put in the, I want to go back to 49 here. If I don't have to put in 49 though. It'll understand, since it's a closed polygon, that it needs to close it, and it'll go back to 49 by itself. So I've established that lot. And I'm just going to do one more lot, and then we're going to add these to the whole thing and plot it up. So we will say add a new group. We'll call this 102 to give it a number. And the name will be lot number 2. It's going to be a closed polygon, and it's going to have point numbers. And it's defined 51 to 50. A radius point to 17, which is the center of the cul-de-sac. Out to 52, out to 53, back to 3, to 37, and back to 51. And again, I don't have to enter that closing point. I can just say OK. So now I've established these two lots. And I've got all these starting points. And ensure there are duplicates in there. The program, when you go to use the 127 minus command to plot everything out, it's smart enough to understand the duplicates and how to deal with them and all that. So at this point, we are going to say we're done here. Okay, moving right along here, an interesting exercise we're going to do right now. And we're going to go to our 130 minus routine. And you'll notice here that without exercising a lot here, I have deactivated all but lot number 1 because I was trying to figure out a problem. And what I'm going to do now is just in showing you that I'm going to attempt to plot lot 1 or lot number 1 and show you what I'm referring to. So here I'm going to go 127 minus, and I'm going to fly through this thing fairly quickly, take all the defaults, and call it lot 1, and auto-label it. Yeah, I'm going to pretty much take everything the way it comes. Sure, I'll take the scale. I don't care. 1, 2, curve table. Sure, rock on. And gee, I don't see anything here, which is a bit of a concern to me. So I'm going to do a little zoom to extents, and I'm going to slide through something south there. So let's see what we can do here to see what happens. I'm going to pan this down. There we are. And if we zoom into this really closely, we can quickly see that something must have gone wrong, that this point that we wanted to go to, it didn't go there, it went somewhere else. So obviously I must have misinput some data when you get this kind of result, and that's all I wanted to show you was the excitement you can get when that happens. So I'm going to go back here, I'm going to go back to my picture, if you would, and click in a little bit here. See this point, this is really point number 31, and I think I entered it as point 34. And of course, since there was no 31, it went off and tried to do something, and the results became unpredictable at that point. So, knowing that now, I'm going to come back here. I'm going to go into my 130 minus routine. I am going to edit lot number 1. I'm going to come down here to change that 4 to a 1 and say OK. And I'll betcha. And what I can do now, because I know that's probably the fix, I am going to reestablish. If I click on this and I say toggle status, it becomes active. And so I'm going to leave my starting points inactive, and I'm just going to plot these two lots. That's all I really want to do, okay? lots 1 and 2. So I say OK to that. I go back to my 127 minus command and buzz through all the stuff and accept that and give it a title. Lots 1 and 2, and I'll accept again all that stuff. OK, and I'll accept that scale, since again this isn't plotting to scale, so I'm just essentially wanting to get through and see what I have. And now I have something that looks a lot like my picture. So here I can happily zoom into this a lot. And let me just change the view to black on white and get a better view of things. And I can right click here and pan the thing around a little bit so we can see we have happy little curve tables and line numbers and points and all this stuff. And then we have the 2 lots that we've established in here that are just what we wanted to see. And everything looks copacetic now. So those are the kinds of things that can happen, and I just thought I'd show you a little bit of my real-life experience transposing or mistransposing a number. Keep in mind that with this drawing established on my screen, I can print it. I can select my printer, and it will print on my Windows printer and generally fit the sheet of paper that I have in. The one thing you want to be aware of is no, this is not to scale, okay? Because VoloView Express, because it's free, Autodesk gives it to you for nothing. They had to take something out of it, so what they took out was your ability to plot to scale. Those of you without an AutoCAD tool who would like to plot to scale, I think VoloView, a full copy of VoloView, the non-express copy, is like, it used to be $200, but I believe it's now $50, so it's a cheap buy on their website on Autodesk.com if you just want to go out and buy a copy, and I think you can download it. So anyway, little sidebar information. Back in Benchmark now, obviously in the course of running this application, you can see that I've had this long scrolled sheet that's basically everything I've done since I woke the computer up this morning and started this project. So this is kind of my history of this session, if you would. If I wanted to save that, all I would need to do would be to click here, go to Edit, select all, go to Edit, copy, and it'll grab, as I say, everything that's there and paste that into a text editor, and I've got my day's work all wrapped up. So in a lot of cases, I tend to like this better than worrying about turning the printer on and off, since it gives me a lot more flexibility. Because once I've pasted that into a any kind of a text editor, I obviously can add things and change things around and do all kinds of stuff. Okay, so I have a lot of flexibility with that approach, and it's kind of nice actually. So back to here. I think this concludes what I want to do in lot sizing. The book goes through several more examples. I wanted to do enough examples for you to give you the flow of it, but I think having seen the flow here, you can take the rest of those examples and go right on through and try them out and get comfortable with how those routines work. One last item, I didn't cover this in the benchmark. This piece of the benchmark mini manual, I want to go down to page 7, I think it is. And take you in a little bit. We can zoom in a little closer. This is obviously something you print out, but these are the lot sizing routines shown in minimal format so that you can look at them. And obviously, if you go to the main benchmark manual, these routines are discussed in great detail there, and I'll show you that in just a second. Here we're looking at the index to the main manual, page 10 of 488. You see chapter 12 has the lot sizing commands. One nice little feature here is I can click on search, which brings up a little window over here, and I can type in chapter 12 if I'm lazy and say search, And, didn't find anything. That's because it must be underscored. So let's just try, let's do new search, and let's try casual sizing and see what that gets us. Okay. And so page 288 looks like about the right place. If I pop over here, there we are. And so now I'm in the section, and we're talking about all the details of how this routine works. So again, with a little bit of navigation, also keep in mind that within the chapters themselves, there are well-established demonstrations annotated for each routine here too. So in addition to the samples book, you also have examples within the manual. So you've got quite a thorough set of documentation places to go when you have questions on things. I think this really ends the section on lot sizing. I think I've shown you everything that you need to know to get comfortable with it.